Good Friday afternoon, everybody. Meteorologist Casey Cloud here in the Weather Center watching a severe thunderstorm in the Adel area. Just getting an update from the Weather Service here on the latest as the warnings continuing here till 4 o'clock for parts of Colquitt and Cook counties. Adel getting into some of the worst of this right now. You see that lightning on that screen. You see as you look toward North Tipton doing okay. But as we go ahead and switch you on over toward our other mode of the Doppler radar, I have things a little more concentrated here, and I'm zooming in now to street level mapping right around Adel. You can kind of see some of that wind energy, maybe a little bit here, just coming into town, even on the northern side there of things, even up towards Sparks. So Cook County, severe thunderstorm warning till 4 o'clock. The latest was that this severe thunderstorm at 3:40 was over Adel, moving south at about 10 miles an hour. So Adel, Sparks, Berlin, Cecil, Ellington, Reed Beanham State Park, Cook County Airport, Pineboro, as well as Greggs, Barneyville, Pine Valley. They are under this severe thunderstorm warning until 4 o'clock. And we're in this pattern here where we're having quite a few strong storms, even toward parts of north central Florida here, toward the Swanee River Valley, toward areas out in toward eastern Big Bend as well. Some strong storm action there west of Mayo. You see some of that there in Lafayette County there, as well as it toward Cross City. Some nasty weather there, not severe yet, and then off toward the I-75 corridor from Lake City down to Alachua there. Columbia County there involved with that potential. Also Alachua County, a little bit maybe of Union County too. We'll watch to see how these storms are moving. Right now tracking off toward the southeast at about 25 miles an hour, and then down toward parts of Putnam County, Flagler County. We're watching some storminess there as well. But let's get back to the severe storm, the task at hand near I-75. We have some nasty wind probably right over Adel right about now based on our radar echoes. Now, we're only looking about 2,000 feet up, so it's not a certainty we're getting the worst of the wind down to the surface, but because we're seeing the winds in divergent directions here, it's possible we're getting some of this wind energy to translate down. These aren't necessarily the pixels you would expect, especially if we're looking, let's say, in springtime or in toward the winter time. We have these squall lines that'll come through. We're not talking about that. You would see brighter colors more than likely on velocity because that wind would be reaching down toward the surface here, and it would be a little more in that straight line fast, unless we were getting twisted. We're not really seeing tornado-like rotation or anything at this point with this. Not really expecting that, but we do have a tropical influence here. I'll go ahead and kind of get this set up on our other source real quick to talk about it, because right now we're kind of on the edge of a tropical envelope of moisture, and then as we look here on your Saturday, then we're going to have drier conditions because of this kind of pushing off toward the south some. As we're looking here, and that'll be some good news obviously as we're watching things for our local forecast. But it's just kind of intriguing to see here, looking at some different things. I'm going to go ahead and zoom on in a little bit of this. It may not be framed exactly right. We'll pop this up though real quick. You can kind of see what I'm talking about. I'll zoom down a little bit, trying to make sure we stay in this small area because I have this on the meso satellites, so this satellite didn't go out too far, but you kind of get the idea here as we're looking. Even toward north central Florida. So Jackson kind of involved here in the overall pattern. We do have a system trying to evolve up to 40% odds now off the coast, but I don't stress out about this. Just to bring this drier air here, at least in the short term as we look to tomorrow. Maybe some warmer air as well here, as we're not going to have those storms to kind of drop those temperatures out there. Now later on, there is some uncertainty as we look ahead. The models are kind of going in different directions, so there's a chance we could have to raise the rain chances later on, but right now in the short term here, this will actually be kind of helping us to dry out, but not today. In the now, here and now, that's not the case. So let's go ahead and pop up the radar once again. We'll go on over toward our GR Earth computer. You do see the severe thunderstorm warning in play around Adel. This is going for another 16 minutes or so. Watching this wind potential right there in toward Cook County. Nothing extreme, but there is some wind energy that's trying to translate on down. So got to bear that out in mind here as we're watching things very carefully, of course. Just watching to see how the wind energy is translating. Maybe some wind energy here as we're looking northwest of Naylor. Maybe something trying to come together there. So we'll keep our eyes on that close to the Moody radar side, and then down toward the south here and parts of Lafayette County west of Mayo, we're seeing a little bit of wind energy trying to translate. We'll have to watch that. off towards 75 further down from Adel. I mean, if you're traveling there, not a great day maybe to be traveling on I-75, at least at this point of the day, as you're getting a pretty nasty bunch of rain here, depending on where you're at. Going from Adel, you get a break between Valdosta and I guess you could see there in Hamilton County around Jasper, but as you look here further down, you see the storminess in play across Columbia, Alachua counties this afternoon. So got to be watching for that potential. These winds aren't looking too high, but we have seen some gust up there. I see Williston earlier got to 33. We had a strong storm in Levy County we were watching earlier on. That storm looked like it was pretty close to becoming severe, but sometimes we're a little bit further away from the storms than we would like to be with the Doppler, so it's harder to get underneath them to see exactly what type of wind is being produced at the surface. But again, watching this warning for another about 14 minutes or so for the Adel area around I-75. Sparks here in this as well. Watching this threat, looking back at rainfall for the last hour, you see some spots here 2.5 inches or so. There's a flood advisory down towards central Florida, Lake County. So some of these rainfall amounts are starting to add on up a little bit. So something to bear out in mind. Again, watching the only warning on the board right now towards south central Georgia. So we're looking more toward the Albany/Tallahassee TV market area here, toward parts of Cook and parts of Colquitt counties. So again, not necessarily toward the first coast. If you're watching from north central Florida, we do have some stronger storms around there that could be candidates for severe warnings as we're looking ahead into where the timeline. 70% chance of rain today, so expecting quite a bit of the coverage of the rain. Not necessarily a widespread severe threat. No formal risk as of right now from the Storm Prediction Center. So that's good news here. But again, watching a storm toward the north. Of course, we cover quite a few counties in South Georgia. Just wanted to let you guys know that if you're watching maybe from Stark right now, Stark's staying pretty good as we're looking toward Bradford County. But we'll watch to see if things kind of come into the picture here. We're looking off the Moody radar right now to get a better visual on that storm up toward Adel. But as we get towards southern parts of Alachua County, you see around Rochelle, Lochloosa there, some heavier rainfall on the board. Salt Springs, you kind of get the idea here. Just continuing to watch things very carefully. So see if any of these storms become severe at some point. We'll take a quick break in the coverage though as we watch that storm around Adel. I'll be back in about 2.5 minutes. back here in the Weather Center. We're about 3:50 now in terms of that time, and that means that about 10 more minutes is left on that severe thunderstorm warning here for the Adel area. We're going to keep watching that region to see if this accident may require another warning or not. It didn't seem like anything's showing up too robust. Sometimes it takes a little while longer for some of these reports to come out, though, especially as we're looking towards southwest, south central Georgia. So, not sure if the lack of reports could be indicative of that storm not really producing, or it could just be taking a little while for the information to stream on out. But as we're looking off toward the east here, you do see some wind energy. I just had that up there toward Lanier County, south of Lakeland. They're watching some of that action there. Maybe a little bit of that trying to translate. You see Augusta 21 there at Moody Air Force Base in about the last 10 minutes or so, I believe. Looks like that's what we're talking about there. Looking at my time there, doing my conversions. We're in military time. We use some different times here. We use UTC, we use military, we use obviously Eastern time here as well, and even just outside of our area, Central time. So gotta make sure I'm looking at my times just right here, making sure we're kind of watching things. As we do see now an aerial flood advisory in Pueblo 545 for Colquitt County. Colquitt County till 545, seeing some of that heavier rain in that region around Moultrie. So let's go ahead and see that. The last hour, we're always seeing those numbers add on up there. About 2.5 inches we get on the south side of Moultrie in the last hour, give or take. So causing some issues there. A pretty highly populated area. As you can see, even 4 inches, and some of our storm total amounts just going upwards of 5 inches here as we're looking back a little bit further. So something to kind of bear in mind. Definitely seeing why that aerial flood advisory is justified there. As we look back out now at the region, you can see toward I-75 watching some of this heavier rain action, some of that wind energy trying to translate. Nothing real impressive. Sometimes when you get so many storms to evolve like this, it makes it harder for the storms to become severe and produce that damage. Not always. Just depends on the environment you're in. But we're in more of an environment right now anyway that's the case. So that's the good news. But as we go ahead and zoom back going up toward the north, we do see the warning in play for Adel, and the only significant weather advisory right now that I see on the board is for that area around I-75 from Lake City to about Alachua, parts of Gainesville, right on the edge of that. But again, watching things there, High Springs, getting in some pretty nasty acts, and nothing really robust. Doesn't mean we couldn't get a quick warning here, but right now things don't look maybe quite as robust as they did a little while ago. Again, we have things kind of coming together, and we had the storms get going a little earlier than maybe the models were showing here as well. So that can also help to tune down and kind of temper that severe weather potential. Doesn't mean we're not going to get warnings. Some areas will be untapped, and you just never know. But sometimes when you have those different instability values and different parameters in play, that can kind of be important here as we look away from those winds. I'm putting the temperatures up right now, and these will show up on our screen here in just a moment. You want to see what's going on as we look towards some of our different communities here across our area. You see down towards 79 in Live Oak, 84 in Lake City, 88 in Keystone, but still way across 92 degrees. They're warmer. And in Seesaw, always a typically warm spot. They're 97 degrees there, more open area. So you kind of get the idea as we watch 94 in Tallahassee. I know we had that heat advisory in play as we were looking. Doesn't look like it's still on the board here. I double check that real quick, but they did have that heat advisory out there toward the west. So let me go ahead and check our National Weather Service site real quick to make sure I'm not missing anything. Just don't want to be caught off guard with that. And actually, it's still on the board, it looks like. Some of it's just not popping up in our system right now, but that's interesting. But anyway, a heat advisory, I guess, still is on the board out there toward the west here. Excuse me. So that's something to bear in mind. Liberty, Franklin, some of the same counties still under that. So I guess our system just having an issue there. But again, watching the heat index values upwards of 108, though. When you get that rain around, that tempers some of that. But we're not seeing too much of that toward Franklin County there. And they're at about 104 in the heat index right now. So pretty nasty. Heat index 102 in Tallahassee, out toward areas in toward that Big Bend region. So let me go ahead and zoom back on out here. Again, going up here toward parts of South Central Georgia, the Adel area. You can see here some of that wind energy, maybe not quite as robust, not quite as maybe organized as it was with the diversion winds. We're seeing some brighter winds in here at times, but they're not summing up too strong. So if I had to guess, I would assume this morning will go at 4. Can't guarantee it. Had a warning last night that was extended down towards St. Augustine. Didn't really think that was going to happen, but you just never know. Out toward Moultrie, we're seeing a little bit maybe of wind energy there in toward Colquitt County. I know we had quite a bit of rain as we were showing you there in toward that area, really adding things up. But as we go ahead and zoom back on out now, you see here watching things. I do see a new significant weather advisory just came out for parts of it. Looks like of Marion and Putnam until 4:45. So that'll be on the screen here in just a second. We're watching these stronger storms, of course, when thunder roars. You want to go indoors. I know I kind of harp on it every day of the year, at least every day in the summer. And you just have to kind of take the precautions because things can really catch you off guard. So watching off toward northeastern Marion around Salt Springs. Also here Georgetown and Putnam County, seeing some of this nastier action there. So I'm going to go ahead and zoom back out a little bit, watching the situation very carefully to see if we get anything severe. Again, we now have a significant weather advisory down toward the south, so going to be watching for that potential here very carefully to see if anything goes severe in that vicinity. Again, you see some of these spots a little bit cooler than others. We're at 3:56 on the clock right now. I know where I'm at. Just looking behind me here, we're at about 89 degrees, it looks like. So temperature a little bit cooler maybe than what we were seeing at this time yesterday. But as we go ahead now, I'm going to go ahead and pop up our live camera where I'm at here in just a moment. Seeing some pretty interesting things as we look off toward the west. So let me go ahead and move away from our radar system for now and say that. You see, looking west from this dark area, some of the darker skies in play. We have that storm and it's near I-75, so that's kind of what we're looking at. It's in the distance a little bit, but you kind of get an idea of what that does look like here from this dark area if you're not outside or able to really look outside. So just giving you an idea there, temperature in the upper 80s where I'm at here towards dark. So we'll be watching things to see how maybe stuff can come together. You just never know. This time of year, things are really unpredictable. Even the best models really struggle with this action here because it's so much on the micro scale. Now this action a little bit more on the macro scale because we have that tropical influence. So in some ways you could say maybe it's a little easier to model, but again, just continuing to watch things here. I'll go back over onto our GR level 3, and this, by the way, macro and micro. We're talking about micro on a smaller scale, macro on a bigger scale, just to kind of define that a little bit. But we just had that warning go away for Colquitt, for Cook, so that's good news. We have 2 significant weather advisories now, so 2 candidates, potentially 4 warnings as we look down toward the south and east here. So I'm going to continue to watch things very carefully. We're at 3:58 now on the clock. I think we'll be wrapping up our coverage here soon. We'll watch to see if any of these storms go severe. 45-mile-an-hour winds in that Salt Springs area. Satsuma, 45-mile-an-hour winds possible there. If we get more warnings, we'll be back with you here in the Weather Center. So stay tuned, everybody. I'll go ahead and zoom out one more time. Nothing looks imminent. But I know that even that storm up toward Cook County wasn't really just not jumping off the screen severe. Sometimes you'll get that. Sometimes you won't. So you have to just stay on guard. I know Cloud_WX on Twitter is a great place to go there. A great place to go for that up-to-date weather information when you have those alerts coming out. You get those immediately, folks. If you're on a weather radio, something like that, you get them. I mean, I jump on after those alerts in general here. Of course, when we have a tornado watch or a tropical system, I can jump in and maybe tell you about the threat before it's happening, but a little bit harder when we have these pop-up storms. It's just that nature, how things can go. And then cloudweather.com/radar, another place to go to kind of see how action's pulsing up, pulsing down as well. You see maybe a little bit of increase there toward Marion. We are looking off. I do need to preface this. We're looking off with the radar there in Moody's. So let me go ahead and check the Jacksonville radar just to make sure we're not missing anything before I jump off, because we're actually on a little bit further radar. So let me pop this up real quick. I don't want to jump off and then have something really be well defined here and have to jump right back in. You do see a little bit of wind energy south of Salt Springs. A little bit of something there east of Pomona Park as well, and then towards 75, we're pretty close to both radars in terms of the distance difference, but you can see here a lot to where there is some wind energy. Nothing imminent, maybe severe, but gotta watch. I know northeast central Florida, they're talking about heavy rainfall, localized flooding possible as we're looking ahead, so that's something to be paying attention to. Seeing some of that toward our South Georgia areas, could see some more of that toward our North Florida areas here as well. So let me go ahead and jump back on over to our other source. We're now at the top of the hour. Meteorologist Casey Cloud here in the Weather Center. Looking here at our 12-hour rainfall, you do see here our areas popping up some of this rain. I know some of that rain we were looking at it towards south central Georgia is from the yesterday event. It seems as that was kind of showing up still on the Moody's site. As you can see here, some of these areas getting more rain. This Santa Fe area looks like a maximum there in toward parts of central Florida, about 3 inches or so with the rainfall. So just kind of give you an idea here. Once you get to these blues, we're talking about over a half an inch, and then you kind of go up from there. Lighter blues over an inch, give or take. You get into those purples, inch and a half. You kind of get the idea. The reds, 3 inches or so, like what we're seeing down toward areas of central Florida a little bit. So just kind of giving you that scale. Sometimes our scale doesn't stop quite right, so that's why I don't have it on the screen like maybe we could do. I thought about that, but sometimes we'll set the satellite scale, things like that here instead, and I don't want it to be confusing for you guys here at home. So wrapping it up for now. If we get another warning, we'll either post about it depending on the threat, based on where it's at, based on where things are coming together in terms of the parameters, in terms of what it looks like in the velocity images. So stay tuned. Stay safe out there for now. Meteorologist Casey Cloud. Have a good afternoon.